Okay, so get this. We're diving into a story with family drama and power dynamics and divine promises, all in just one chapter of Genesis.
Wow.
It's Genesis 33. And we're picking up with Jacob returning to Canaan after years of, kind of laying low, fleeing from his brother Esau.
Right.
And remember that whole situation with the birthright?
Oh, yeah.
Let's just say there's a bit of tension in the air.
Yeah, a bit more than a bit, I'd say.
Right.
It's a recipe for disaster, it seems like.
Totally. And what's so interesting is how Jacob prepares for this encounter.
Yeah.
It's less like a family reunion and more like he's, preparing for some high-stakes negotiation. He's dividing up his possessions. He's strategically placing his family. He's sending gifts ahead.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, why all this elaborate choreography?
Yeah, and I think it's easy to look at that and say, oh, he's just trying to protect himself.
Mm.
But what I think is interesting is that it actually reflects, I think, a really keen awareness of ancient protocol and covenant.
Okay.
This isn't just about, smoothing things over with Esau. This is about upholding, a lineage, a promise that goes back generations.
Right. It's bigger than just these two.
Exactly.
It's almost like he's playing 4D chess while everyone else is setting up the board.
Right. Exactly.
Then when they finally do meet, we get this almost excessive amount of bowing.
It's a lot.
Jacob bows the wives, bow the kids bow.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
That's a lot.
Because today that would be so weird. But in their world, bowing wasn't just, a sign of respect or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was really about acknowledging authority, like physically almost submitting yourself to a higher power.
Oh, wow.
And so I think you have to remember Jacob left Canaan fearing for his life. He wrestled with God, literally and figuratively.
Right.
And now he's coming back prosperous, but still humble.
Okay.
And so each one of those bows is this recognition of Esau's position,
Right.
but also this deeper submission to God's plan.
Oh, that's really interesting. And speaking of layers, how about that line where Jacob tells Esau, seeing your face has been like seeing the face of God?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is that just some next level flattery, or is there something more there?
I think it's a really powerful statement, and it reflects something that you see throughout the Old Testament.
Okay.
This idea that God was encountered through human interaction, especially within families.
Okay.
And so after everything that Jacob had been through, his wrestling with the divine,
Right.
seeing Esau, seeing his face,
Mm-hmm.
considering their past,
Yeah.
he sees the face of God reflected there.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from tense family reunion to profound spiritual encounter.
Right.
And then we get to the whole gift giving, which
Right.
is an entire saga in itself.
Right.
Jacob practically forces this lavish gift on Esau. Come on, you're taking these goats.
He's insistent.
You're taking the sheep. You're taking it all.
It's like that friend who's like, no, I'm paying for dinner no matter what you say. You're not arguing with me.
So what's the significance of this whole back and forth?
Well, because it's not just about making amends, It actually, I think, taps into the very heart of the Abrahamic covenant.
Okay.
So remember, God promised Abraham that his descendants would be a blessing to the nations.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Jacob with this extravagant gift.
Okay.
And it's not just him apologizing. He's
Right.
actually trying to live out that blessing in a very real way.
So even in this simple interaction, this exchange of gifts,
Yeah.
we're seeing echoes of this much larger narrative.
Yeah, you see that over and over again.
Oh, that's really cool.
How intertwined their personal relationships were with, their religious duty and their societal expectations. Everything's connected.
Yeah. Wow.
But, it's not just about gifts and reconciliation, is it?
Right.
There's a reason this chapter doesn't end with them just, parting ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, you'd think after all that Jacob would just take his camels and head for the hills,
Right. Get out of there.
but he doesn't. He sticks around and he really settles down in Canaan. He buys some land. He builds a house. It's the whole shebang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's putting down roots.
It's a lot more than just unpacking after a long trip.
Definitely. And I think, it's important to remember what was promised to Abraham,
Mm-hmm.
right? This wasn't just about oh, you're going to have a lot of kids.
Right.
This was about land, this specific land.
This is Canaan. We're talking about the promised land.
Yeah.
Flowing with milk and honey, or at least that's the image, right?
Exactly. And that land was central to the covenant,
Okay.
right? It's the physical embodiment of God's blessing.
Wow.
So Jacob settling there, it's almost like he's making a down payment on this promise that was made centuries ago.
Wow.
He's stepping into his inheritance,
That's a good way to put it.
claiming his place in this huge, this grand plan.
It really adds a whole other meaning to the idea of home. You know,
Right.
It's not just where you hang your hat. It's like you're stepping into this whole legacy.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it doesn't stop there. He
Right.
takes it a step further.
Okay.
He builds an altar.
Yeah, this isn't just like a housewarming party.
Right.
This is a statement.
It's a declaration.
And he gives it a name too, El Elohe Yisrael,
Whoa.
which means God, the God of Israel.
Whoa.
It's kind of a bold move.
Yeah.
What's the significance there?
Huge.
Okay.
Because it marks this transition.
Right.
Up until this point, it's been about Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
Right, like a family.
Yeah, a family on a journey. And then here, with this altar, with this name, it's like the birth announcement of a nation.
Wow.
It's like Jacob saying, this isn't just my land.
All right,
This
Tony.
isn't even just about me. This is God's land.
Okay.
And we are his chosen people.
So he's taking this personal covenant, this family history, and like transforming it into this collective identity.
Yeah, like bam, here we are.
Wow.
And that act, the land, worship their identity as a people.
Yeah.
It echoes throughout the whole rest of the story.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for everything that's going to happen with Israel. And I mean, think about it. That altar that becomes more than just stones and sacrifices.
Right.
It's like this physical reminder of their covenant with God, this rallying point for their faith.
Yeah, when you put it like that, building an altar takes on a whole new meaning.
It's a big deal.
It's like watching the foundation of a nation being built.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
We go from this almost disastrous family reunion to like the birth of a nation.
Right.
It's like we packed a whole season of a TV show into like 30 minutes.
I know. It's wild.
So we've got family drama, we've got divine promises, we've got altars being built. But like, what's the takeaway for us thousands of years later?
Well, I think at its heart, it's a story about reconciliation,
Okay.
about legacy and the impact of our choices.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would have been so easy for Jacob to just hold on to that grudge against Esau, to
Yeah.
let their past completely determine their future. But he chooses forgiveness.
Yeah.
He chooses to embody God's blessing even when he doesn't have to.
Wow.
And that choice,
Yeah.
it sets off this chain of events that echoes down through generations.
It's like that butterfly effect thing, right?
Exactly. One small act can have massive consequences.
And we don't always know what those are going to be.
Exactly.
So are you saying we should be looking for those like altar moments in our own lives?
Absolutely.
Those times where we can put down roots and make a statement, even if it seems small at the time?
Yeah. And remember, just like Jacob, we're not doing any of this on our own.
Right.
We have a God who is intimately involved in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
working through relationships, honoring even the smallest acts of faith.
It really makes you think, what altars are we building in our own lives?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what choices are we making that might seem insignificant now,
Right.
but could actually be laying the groundwork for something much bigger?
Yeah. I love that because I think that's what's so powerful about this story.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds us that those choices, those encounters, they can have an impact far beyond anything we could imagine.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks for diving into this with me.
Yeah, absolutely. This was fun. Thanks for having me.